Mercedes dealers won't tell you which E-Class years to avoid. They can't. They're trying to sell them. So here's what they'd rather you didn't know before you walk onto that lot. 3 years to run from, 4 years worth every penny, and the prices and features that actually matter for each one. Here's why this information stays buried in the first place. A used car lot doesn't make its real money on the sticker price. It makes money on financing terms, extended warranties, and moving inventory fast. That means a salesperson's entire job is getting you attached to a car, not necessarily steering you to the right one. Year-specific reliability data, the stuff that actually determines whether you're happy with this purchase in 3 years, almost never comes up in the pitch. It's sitting in public databases, owner forums, and reliability surveys with thousands of documented cases behind it. It's just never the thing anyone points to on the lot. The 3 worst years. Number 3, Mercedes-Benz E-Class W211 2003 to 2006. Used price range today $4,000 to $8,000. This is where the E-Class's reputation problems start. These cars came with Airmatic air suspension, the system responsible for that famous floating luxury ride. When it fails, and on these early W211s it fails often, the repair runs $2,500 to $4,500. That's a documented average, not a scare number. Features on paper look great for the price. Leather interior, dual-zone climate control, a smooth inline 6 or V6, a genuinely comfortable ride when everything's working. The problem is what's underneath. These years also carry a well-documented rust issue in northern states. Not surface rust, but corrosion hitting subframes and wheel wells, serious enough to draw class action attention in several states. A $6,000 sticker price on one of these can turn into a $10,000 plus car within a year. It's worth adding, this is also the era where Mercedes' first-generation command infotainment system lived, and those units are notorious for freezing, resetting, or losing navigation data entirely. It's a minor annoyance next to the suspension and rust risk, but it's one more system on this car that ages poorly, and it tells you something about the overall build quality of this specific window. Number 2, Mercedes-Benz E-Class W211 diesel and V8 variants, 2004 to 2007. Used price range today, $5,000 to $9,000. Same generation, worse combination. Reliability data consistently shows V6 gasoline models in this era holding up far better than their V8 and diesel counterparts. The V8 trims, the E500 and E55 AMG, add power and complexity on top of a suspension system that was already the platform's weak point. The diesel variants from this window bring their own injector and emission system problems on top of that. Feature-wise, you're paying for power you can't reliably use. The V8s offer 302 to 469 horsepower depending on trim, which sounds appealing on a used listing, but the repair costs scale right along with the engine size. The AMG-tuned E55 is a genuinely fast car for its era, and that's exactly the trap. Buyers get pulled in by the performance numbers and forget that every extra cylinder and every extra turbo is one more part that can fail on a chassis already known for suspension trouble. If you're set on a W211, this is the exact combination to avoid. Number 1, Mercedes-Benz E-Class W211 high mileage, no suspension records, 2003 to 2006. Used price range today, $3,000 to $6,000, and that deal price is the warning sign. This is the worst buy in the lineup, and it's less a single year than a scenario. Take the worst generation W211, push it past 120 or 150,000 miles, and find zero documented suspension service history. The average annual repair cost across the whole W211 generation already sits around $1,200 a year, the highest of any E-Class generation. Stack a neglected suspension system on top of that, and you're not buying a used luxury sedan. You're buying a countdown timer to a $5,000 bill, with no way of knowing if it's 30 days away or 30 months away. This is exactly the car that shows up with a fresh detail, a clean interior, and a price that looks like a steal, because the seller already knows what's coming. And here's the tell that separates this from a genuine bargain. If the seller can't produce a single service record for the suspension across 150,000 miles, that's not luck. Airmatic systems on this generation rarely go that long without at least one component needing attention. Silence on the paperwork is the loudest warning sign on the whole car. The 4 best years. Number 4. Mercedes-Benz E-Class E350 2010 to 2013. Used price range today, $9,000 to $14,000. The W212 was Mercedes' direct answer to everything that went wrong with the W211, and it shows. RepairPal rates the E350 from this window at 4.2 out of 5.0, exceptional for a luxury sedan this size. Average annual repair cost drops to around $780 a year, roughly a third less than the W211 on the same nameplate. Features you're getting are the 3.5-liter V6 making 268 horsepower, a much improved aromatic system, standard leather, dual-zone climate, and a noticeably more refined electrical architecture. Mercedes also redesigned the wiring harness routing on this generation, which directly addressed one of the more common electrical gremlins that plagued the W211. This is the generation where Mercedes actually fixed its own homework. Number 3. Mercedes-Benz E-Class E350 2014 to 2016. Same platform, extra years of refinement. By this point, Mercedes had years of real-world data on the W212 and had ironed out the early bugs any new generation carries. You get the same reliable V6, plus later builds add command infotainment upgrades, improved LED lighting, and updated safety tech like blind spot assist on higher trims. Later builds in this window also received the refreshed exterior and interior design as part of a mid-cycle update, so you're getting a car that looks and feels newer than its price suggests. This is one of the strongest windows in the entire E-Class history if you want modern comfort with proven mechanics. Number 2. Mercedes-Benz E-Class W213 2019 to 2021. The current generation W213 is the safest modern bet, but only from 2019 onward. The very first builds, 2017 and 2018, had a documented MBUX infotainment screen failure, with replacement costs of $1,200 to $2,000. By 2019, Mercedes had resolved most of that. Features here are a real jump. Dual 12.3-inch MBUX screens, standard active safety suite, a 2.0-liter turbo 4 or 3.0-liter inline-6 depending on trim, and the lowest average annual repair cost of any E-Class generation, around $650 a year. This generation also introduced a far more capable semi-autonomous driving suite and an available inline-6 with mild hybrid assistance, giving you meaningfully better fuel economy without sacrificing the smoothness the E-Class is known for. Newest E-Class you can buy without inheriting first-year growing pains. Number 1. Mercedes-Benz E-Class E350 documented maintenance history. 2011 to 2012. Used price range today, $10,000 to $15,000, often less with full records. The top overall pick. Past the E-Class's worst reliability era, built on a suspension architecture that learned from the W211's mistakes, running the most dependable engine Mercedes offered in this car, and old enough that any lingering issues have already surfaced and, in a well-documented example, already been fixed by a previous owner. Features the same 268 horsepower V6, leather seating, dual-zone climate, and a suspension system that's had a decade to prove itself. Consumer Reports data from 2021 through 2024 keep pointing back to this exact window as a genuine reliability outlier in the luxury sedan segment. If you can find one with full dealer service history and original aromatic components still in place, you're looking at one of the lowest risk used luxury sedans available at this price point, full stop. Price tags and repair averages tell part of the story. Insurance premiums on the E-Class vary more by generation than most buyers expect, mainly because parts availability and repair complexity factor directly into what insurers charge. The W211, with its aromatic suspension and known rust exposure, tends to carry higher comprehensive coverage costs in states with harsh winters, simply because insurers have seen the claims data. The W212 and W213, by contrast, benefit from more standardized parts pricing and lower claim frequency, which often translates into noticeably better quotes. Routine maintenance costs follow the same pattern. Independent Mercedes specialists, not the dealership service department, typically run 30 to 50% less per visit, and that gap matters most on a W211 where you're likely to need suspension work at some point, regardless of how well the car was maintained. Budgeting for that reality up front, rather than discovering it after the first airmatic warning light, is the difference between a manageable ownership experience and a financial headache. Factor this into your total cost of ownership before you fall in love with a specific listing. There's one more number that almost never comes up during the sale, and it matters just as much as the purchase price: what the car is actually worth when you go to sell it. This is where the generation gap becomes even more obvious. W211 models, even ones in decent shape, tend to depreciate faster than their W212 and W213 counterparts, because buyers on the resale market are increasingly aware of the same reliability issues we've covered here. A car with a reputation for expensive suspension failures simply attracts fewer serious buyers, and the ones who do show up negotiate harder, often citing the exact same data points dealers avoid mentioning up front. The W212, on the other hand, tends to hold value more predictably, especially well-documented E350 examples with full service records. Buyers actively searching for a reliable used luxury sedan gravitate towards this generation once they've done their own research, which means a well-maintained W212 often sells faster and closer to asking price than a comparable W211. The W213 is still too new to have a fully established resale pattern, but early data suggests that 2019 and later models are following the same trajectory, holding value better than the troubled first-year builds. This is worth thinking about before you buy, not after. The cheapest car to purchase today isn't always the cheapest car to own over a 5-year window, and resale value is the piece of that equation dealers almost never bring up voluntarily. Pull the NHTSA recall database for the exact model year before you go to the lot. Recalls vary even within the same generation. If the car has Airmatic, ask for suspension service records directly. No records means assume it's never been touched. And for any W213 built in 2017 or 2018, test the MBUX screen for dimming, flickering, or dead touch zones. It also pays to have an independent mechanic run a full diagnostic scan before you commit to anything. A scan tool will catch stored suspension and electrical fault codes that a test drive alone won't reveal, and it costs a fraction of what a surprise repair will. Here's the payoff. Once you know a car's year carries a documented, quantifiable risk, that number becomes leverage. An early W211 with no suspension records isn't priced right at market value. It's a car with a $2,500 to $4,500 repair sitting in its near future, and that belongs in the price conversation. A 2017 or 2018 W213 with no MBUX replacement on record is carrying a $1,200 to $2,000 risk that should come straight off the asking price. Bring the number with you. The moment you show up already knowing the specific risk tied to that specific year, you stop being an easy sale and start being a buyer they actually have to negotiate with. Know the year, know the number. Walk in ready to use both. If this saved you from walking into a dealership blind, that's exactly what this channel's for. Every week we break down the years, the models, and the numbers dealers hope you never look up. So subscribe if you want that edge before your next purchase, not after. And if you're actually car shopping right now, drop the year and mileage you're looking at in the comments. I'll tell you straight. Goodbye or walk away. One more thing before you go. Hit like on this video. It's the only reason YouTube shows this kind of information to the next person about to get talked into a bad W211.